welcome to Main Street West, Clarksville. As you guys have probably noticed by now, the MSP North show has largely been dissolved, and Blaine is onto his own Sumner County sports show, and this, of course, will be the beginning of the MSP Clarksville show. So very excited to have you guys along with us. As always, the show is brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk. We had a great first show lined up for you. We're going to have a guest in here with you guys. We're going to do some players of the week, some games of the week, as you're used to seeing. First, why don't we kind of do a little bit of catching up on how spring sports have gone so far. We've seen, of course, baseball, softball, soccer, some tennis action in there, some track and field action in there. As we look at the baseball landscape so far, 3 ranked teams in Tennessee, or rather in Clarksville. There are more than 3 ranked teams in Tennessee, I would like to think. But Clarksville High, number 2 in the TBCA poll. Clarksville Academy, number 3 in their poll. And Rossview now number 10 in their poll. Those teams all just had great weeks, great weekends in the Downey Everett Classic. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit coming up. And, of course, more teams in the area. Montgomery Central having a solid year. They, of course, made that state tournament run last year, so anything is still possible there. Northwest and Northeast, definitely still threats in the area. They can still, come in, beat some good teams. And, of course, just Kenwood, West Creek, maybe not the biggest threats this year, but still, worth watching to them. With softball, really fun kind of storyline to watch with Clarksville High and Rossview, along with Springfield down in Robertson County, kind of battling 3 teams for 2 spots in the region championship, as head coach Brian Rush for Clarksville High has been describing it. That's going to be something that's pretty fun to watch as we kind of get going into this year, into this postseason. Creeping up there in a couple weeks, seeing which of those 2 teams can get to the region championship, because all 3 can't get there. Right now, Clarksville High is 2-0 against those teams, whereas Rossview has beaten Springfield and lost to Clarksville High. So exciting to watch. Of course, other teams in the area. Montgomery Central softball, very good this year. They're currently in 3rd place in their district behind Greenbrier and Creekwood. We're going to talk about that again kind of later on here as we get into games of the week. So there's your little tease for right now. Soccer is definitely very fun right now. Kind of 4 pretty good teams that we're looking at watching here, with Northeast, who beat Rossview themselves, who made it to the state sectional last year, actually hosted a game in the state sectional last year, and they're looking pretty good again. Clarksville High is undefeated other than a loss to Brentwood, who is a nationally ranked team, so nothing to get upset about there. And West Creek, who beat Northeast. So very exciting district there with soccer. Going to be really exciting to see how that plays out, who gets that district championship, who can maybe host a region game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, you got your tennis, you got your track and field. That's stuff we're going to talk about as in the coming weeks. So as we kind of get into the show here, we're going to take a quick break, go to commercial, as we look to get our first guest of the MSP Clarksville show on, and you won't want to miss it.
It's just a few cocktails at happy hour.
It was just a few cocktails at happy hour.
You really good try.
There aren't any cops around.
I didn't think there were any cops around.
I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to hang on, okay? Tell me your name, sir. Where you are right now?
It was just a few drinks. I'm good.
I thought it was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor.
I thought I could hold my liquor.
Welcome back to MSP Clarksville. We have our first guest of the new show ready to come in. It's Parker Holman, head coach of the Rossview baseball team. The Rossview boys are currently ranked 10th in the TBCA poll, just coming off a great Donnie Everett Classic. Parker, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Brady, and thanks to MSP for having us today and letting us talk some spring sports and especially baseball and just sharing some of your coverage with our local athletes.
Hey, it is our pleasure, man. You guys have been a fun cover this year. As I mentioned, that Donnie Everett Classic, you guys beat Riverdale 13-4, Christian County 21-4, and the big one, Houston 7-3, a team that got you guys in the sectional last year. Just tell us about the experience with the Donnie Everett Classic this year.
Well, I'll just talk a little bit about the tournament itself. It's one that Coach Etlin over at Clarksville High put together, many years ago, and it kind of transitioned into the Donnie Everett Classic after the unfortunate events that took place with Donnie and, his brief time at Vanderbilt came to a short end. And I just think it's a wonderful tournament that not only represents the baseball here in Clarksville and gives us a chance to showcase what we have going on at our local parks and local high schools, also our local players, but it also gives us a time to reflect on just how meaningful and impact that players, especially like Donnie, that have had in our community in growing baseball and getting us to the status that we have now.
Yeah, he was definitely an incredible player. Very, very tragic way that his life came to an end, but really cool of teams like you guys, Clarksville Academy and Northeast, and of course, Clarksville High still being able to play on in his name. I know that that's something that his family, I'm sure, is very appreciative of. But moving on, you guys also had a kind of a home and home with McCracken County, who was a top team in Kentucky this past week. You guys beat them here and then I believe went to McCracken and lost, but two very close games. Tell me about that team and how cool it is to be able to kind of get your guys some experience against a top team from out of state.
Yeah, it was a very good baseball 2 days in a row. We were fortunate. I think McCracken County would feel the same way in regards to us, but to get them on the schedule and, anytime you can play the number 2 team in the state of Kentucky, a home and away, not just one game, but a series where, you're seeing multiple arms, you're seeing their starters and their guys out of the bullpen, and they're seeing the same from us. And coming off the Donnie Everett Classic, we knew it was going to be a tough test going in. We knew that team had played a lot of baseball late in June, which is when their state tournament is for really the last 3 or 4 years. And we got 2 great pitching performances. Rice threw for us on Tuesday at our place. We were lucky enough to come away with a 6-4 victory. And then Hezekiah Scott threw last night. We carried a 2-0 lead into the 6th. I think he had a 2-hit shutout going into the 6th, and then 3 balls that 3 hopped in the infield and on the turf got through, and they were able to push 3 across. And we left guys at second and third with 2 outs in the top of the 7th to end it. So it was really good baseball and a really good matchup. They exploited some of our weaknesses, and we tried to do the same to them. And I hope and feel that both clubs got better after that series.
Yeah, it sounds like it was definitely a couple really good baseball games. You mentioned Cannon Rice, Hezekiah Scott. Of course, you guys also have Reed Leonard. Those are really your 3 kind of co-aces that you can trot out there. But we talked earlier this year that it was going to be kind of about the pitching depth past those 3 guys that might, determine how far you guys could possibly go this year. What have you seen past Rice, Leonard, and Scott?
Well, really, the story of the year for Rossview so far has just been, overcoming adversity. For the kid that Julian Richards was our leadoff at the beginning of the year, we haven't had him going on a week and a half now. Brady Cooper, who is a junior for us that was first team All-State last year, he hasn't been in the lineup for over a week and a half. So we've had to shake some things up. And I've been really proud of some of our younger guys, whether it's, on the mound or in the lineup as well, just stepping up and playing to our standard, towing the line, not being scared of the moment, and just competing and letting the game come to them and not panicking. They've done a good job of letting us keep our head above water until we can get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, missing Julian and especially Brady, who, like you said, is a first-team All-State guy. Those are obviously big. What's going on with them? Or do you think you're going to be able to get them back in the lineup?
I sure hope so. I wish I got paid like the doctors do, but that one's over my head a little bit. But I do think they'll be able to get back in the lineup sooner than later. That's at least what we're expecting. It's a little bit more of a precautionary thing than it is, forced at hand. But you got to play for May, and the biggest thing in May is you got to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I would rather have them healthy in May than in the middle of April. So probably a smart move there by the coaching staff. But we look at the TBCA polls. You guys started in the season, I think around number 5 or so in that Class 4A poll. Eventually dropped out, but you're back in there now after that strong Donnie Everett Classic, in there at number 10. How much stock, if any, do you guys put in those polls?
It's great publicity. It looks great on social media. I'm more than thankful for the social media recognition and the looks that our program and our players get. And from that standpoint, it's awesome. The people who do that week in and week out that do those rankings, I think it's great for our sport. And I hope it continues to grow. On the flip side of it, though, it's the greatest rat poison in the game of high school baseball that you can have. Those rankings don't mean anything but words on paper when you get into May. I was telling somebody the other day, I haven't seen Nolansville in there yet, but I guarantee you nobody's going to sign up to play Nolansville when McIlvaine's on the mound in May. So, baseball's a funny game. I'm glad we went to series this year. To where I really do truly feel like your best teams are going to be represented in state. Not that they haven't in the past, but baseball, I just feel like it's meant to be played over more than one game. And I think it's a tale of two stories. I think it's great for our sport. I think the publicity is great, but from a coaching standpoint, you have to fight the battle of, hey, guys, a number by your school's name really, it doesn't mean much in March and April, as it might in May. In May, at the end of May, the true rankings are going to come out, and those are the ones you can't dispute. So, but I think it's great for our sport.
Definitely, yeah. You mentioned that series. For those who don't know, the sectional games have, forever basically just been a one game, and whoever wins that one game moves on to state. This year, it's going to be a series, a best of 3, if I remember correctly. You mentioned that you're big on that. Is that something that you've kind of been advocating for, and potentially might help Rossview?
Well, I think it helps baseball as a whole. I don't necessarily know that it helps Rossview any more than it does anybody else, but I think it gives our state an opportunity for the best baseball clubs to be represented in May, and not necessarily just the ones that may have, the one wild card arm that they can ride to state, but then they get there and that kid can only throw once. And, I think I'm just a firm advocate of baseball being a series game. I think if the best team is going to be represented, best 2 out of 3 series is going to give you the best team to be represented in the state tournament.
Yeah, without a doubt. Definitely going to highlight that depth, especially in the pitching staff. Speaking of your depth, you guys have battled some injuries. You guys have kind of dipped into that depth of your own, but we've kind of seen some younger players for you guys, especially in this past week, kind of come out for you and show that, Rossview is more than just those top couple guys. Who are some of the younger players that you've seen kind of really kind of blossom into their roles?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of been by committee. We've had a handful of sophomores that have really stepped up, and I don't know that their play has been flashy, or I call it social media or tweet worthy. There hasn't been a home run or anything like that all the Twitter maniacs might want to post, but just their fearlessness and their ability to compete in every at bat, and their maturity has really surprised me. Just their ability to stay locked in for 7 innings. Caden Slaughter's done a tremendous job for us this year as a sophomore. He's caught some. He's played short for us. CJ Lattimore's probably one of the better utility players that I've had. He can play the middle infield. He can play the outfield. Houston Abear's been a big oncomer for us, sitting in the middle of our lineup. He's a big boy that allows us to protect some other hitters in front of him. Julian Richards, he's a sophomore this year that, probably not a lot of people in Clarksville even knew his name, but his speed is I'd put it up against just about anybody in the state. He's a 6'5", 60 kid, left-handed hitter, and he led off for us as a sophomore our first 10 games of the season until the injury bug got him. And that list goes on and on. We've had a kid that has come out of our bullpen, and Andrew Day, he's a sophomore. He's got 3 saves on the season. And, the kid may weigh 135 pounds soaking wet. And he goes out there and throws 3 pitches for strikes. And, his demeanor and his body language never changes. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure with Houston, you and Johnny Jackson both alike are very pleased with some of the gains he's made in the weight room, especially over the past year or so. What other way could I possibly finish up this interview with you than talking about this upcoming series on Monday and Tuesday against CHS? Of course, 2 years ago, CHS swept the series against Rossview. Last year, Rossview swept the series against CHS. This year, both teams are looking pretty darn good with the teams that they've beaten, their records, some of the players that have kind of shown up. Just give us a little preview of this upcoming CHS Rossview Warfield Shield baseball series.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before I get to the big one that everybody's going to be curious about as far as the Clarksville and Rossview series is, I just want to take a minute to talk about baseball in Clarksville as a whole. And I know you mentioned early on in the show, and I think as our city is growing, so is the population, and I think baseball is really thriving in Clarksville. I'd challenge someone to go Google and research the last time that 3 Clarksville high schools were ranked in the top 10 in the state in their respective divisions. Clarksville Academy's got a great thing going over there under Coach Smith. He's got a lot of good players. They play a tough schedule. Obviously, Clarksville is the same. I feel like we do the same. And, the funny thing is I watch Northeast, who, I'm talking to Coach Ratliff, they're going something, but I watched those guys beat, Riverdale in the Donnie Everett Classic 4-2 the other day. And I think our sport, the sport of baseball in Clarksville, is really thriving. I think that the coaches here that we have in our town do a great job of preparing our kids, and even keeping up with those schools, the Houstons, the Colliervilles, the Brentwoods, and all of those who may have better facilities or a turf field or whatever it is. And we're finding a way to match those on the field while, we may not match them from a facility standpoint. And I'm proud to be a part of the Clarksville baseball community and watching it grow. That's one of the best things about our job as head coaches is just watching baseball and the level in which it's being played at in our town not only grow, but start to rival some of those that we may have admired in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a really awesome thing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
let's get into that series.
Was the series. The biggest thing, and I tell our kids, and I'm sure Coach Hetland does the same, at the end of the day, it's a 2-game series that, as of right now, and normally in the past, it comes down to first place in regular season of the district tournament or the district regular season, and then it indicates who's going to host the tournament. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's just another baseball game. And I know that may upset a lot of people in town who put so much stock into it, but it's just another 7 innings, 21 outs. The last time I looked, Clarksville High hasn't ended our season, and we haven't ended their season in May, since I've been here. So I think both teams are going to look to win, obviously, and it's going to be a highly competitive series. There's going to be a lot of emotions that come out. But the team that can simplify and play the game of baseball in I hate to say it, but an under-controlled manner is probably going to be the one that's going to be successful.
For sure. What have you seen from CHS so far? I don't know if you've done much scouting or anything on them, but what's your impression of them so far this year?
Well, I know Coach Hetland's probably listening, so I won't get into that too much. But, Steve, he does a tremendous job with his guys, and those guys, they were kind of in the same boat that we were last year. They swept us 2 years ago, and then we swept them last year. They took 3 from us in 21. We took 5 from them in 22. But in 21, we had a bunch of young guys that were just getting a first taste of it. In 22, they had a lot of young guys that were getting the first taste of it. And then this year, I think we both kind of returned some that we really like. I know they returned all their position guys. And, their biggest thing, they do a tremendous job, maybe one of the better jobs in the state of defending the baseball. They really defend on the dirt and the outfield. I think they're fielding it at a 960 clip. And it's probably a fun defense to pitch for. I'd like to pitch for the Wildcats with the defense that they played behind them. I can tell you that.
Without a doubt. But they're going to be going up against a team that's been hitting the ball pretty darn well, some 20 spots that I've seen. It's going to be a heck of a fun series. I personally can't wait to catch those games, and I'm sure you're feeling the same way. Parker, thanks so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it, and hopefully in May I got another reason to bring you back.
I sure hope so, buddy, and I'm so grateful for the coverage that you guys have for our sports here in Clarksville, especially baseball and all the other spring sports. You guys do a tremendous job, and you're a big part of helping us grow the sport of baseball and all the other sports in our county, and we sure do appreciate it.
Thank you, man, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, we have a great day.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. That was Parker Holman, head baseball coach at Rossview High. Again, the Hawks ranked top 10 in the TBCA right now. Going to have a huge series coming up against CHS. I personally can't wait. I'm going to be at those games. Before we get into our players of the week, we're going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, we will round out the show.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good.
I thought it was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal.
It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor.
I thought I could hold my liquor.
Welcome back to the MSP Clarksville Show. I'm Brady McAtamney, and let's get into some players of the week. We're going to go in for baseball, softball, and soccer. So we're going to cover all the bases, literally and metaphorically, actually. So that's a good joke by me. Let's get into baseball. We're going to look at Clarksville Academy, a pitcher named by the name of Colin Rittenberry. Now, Clarksville Academy on Monday lost a tough game to Davidson Academy, kind of an upset there, as we were just talking about with Coach Holman. CA is having a really good season. They're ranked in the top 3 in their class right now. So losing that game to Davidson Academy was kind of a surprise for them. They went back, traveled to their place, and they got their revenge. They got a 15-0 win. And Colin Rittenberry, the pitcher, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 walk, no runs, 14 strikeouts. So Rittenberry pitched an excellent game, really helped them get that win. Of course, it helps when he's getting that kind of run support, but striking out 14 guys, again, this is a 7-inning game, so there are only 21 outs to be had. He struck out 2/3 of the batters he faced, or rather of the outs that he got. Pretty impressive game. I'm surely impressed by that. So excellent job by Colin Rittenberry there. Excuse me. On the softball field, Patterson Ratcliffe for Rossview. They had a win last week over Northeast. In that game, she did a little bit of everything. She had 3 hits, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs. She pitched 2 hitless innings and, of course, scoreless innings. She got 5 Ks in that game against Northeast as well. Excuse me, a little bit of a scratchy throat here today. And moving over to the soccer fields, of course, Northeast, again, I kind of mentioned this game at the top of the show, and we had the Northeast versus Rossview game, so kind of the inverse of our softball game. The goalkeeper for Northeast, TJ Florino, only a freshman in that game. He held Rossview scoreless in that win. Rossview, for those who don't know, are one of the highest powered offenses really in the area, really in the mid-state. This is a team that scores a ton of goals, and he earned his win here. He held them scoreless, a lot of great saves, really excellent job by him there. In our games of the week, I already talked about Clarksville versus Rossview. April 17th and 18th, they're both ranked in the TBCA. They're both undefeated in the district. It's just going to be such a fun game. You know, Rossview hits the ball well. They've got some really good pitchers. Clarksville defends the heck out of the ball against some really good pitchers. They've held teams scoreless super often lately. Just teams that even score the ball well, they've shut them out. Clean slates across the board. So they've done just an excellent job. Really a team that I didn't necessarily expect to be one of the top 2 teams in the class. So just incredible job by them. They've done a heck of a job. Of course, Coach Hetland, always part of that. Looking on the softball field, Clarksville and Rossview played each other there, but I'm going to look at Montgomery Central versus Creekwood. Montgomery Central needs to get a win there if they're going to contend for the district title in the regular season, at least. They didn't do that last year, and they still went on to win the region. So entirely possible that this game just, necessarily doesn't mean everything for them, but getting a win there would be huge, beating Creekwood, who is a team that has given them trouble quite often in the last couple of years. Of course, they beat them in the region championship last year, so very possible that they see each other again. And in soccer, again, talked about at the top of the show about how tough that district is, and Clarksville and Northeast are squared up to meet on April 18th. That's Tuesday. Clarksville is 2-0 in the district. Northeast is 1-1 with a win over Rossview and a loss to West Creek. So that game is going to be very highly contested. I expect to be at least Clarksville, again, only losses to Brentwood, who, again, is the top team in the state. I think anyone will tell you that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. And with that, we are going to end our very first iteration of the MSP Clarksville show. It was a fun one. Thanks again to Parker Holman for coming on. I really appreciate his time. And we will see you guys again next week.